Hey, crotch rot. I'm gonna slurp my lifer's juice out of my own gum.
Yeah, I guess I should have gotten shots beforehand.
Anything else, General?
No, that's fine.
What are all those medals?
I'll never tell. At least not while the sun's shining.
Donka. Hello. Happy Monday. I hope everybody had a good weekend. Woo-wee. Well, I moved into the dining area because the studio got too hot. It got over 100 degrees in the studio, and I was schwitzing like a canoodle. I'm enjoying some delicious caffeine, pure caffeine, nothing else. You know, it's bitter, like my ex-wife. It's Monday. We are here, and
are we?
Yeah, fuck it, we're here.
I'm not sure.
Christian is here. Tim is here, and Jim Watari is here. And yes, I agree, Jim. That soundtrack by Jerry Goldsmith, really good stuff. Jerry got his start in the 60s, and Patton was one of his big breaks. Two films in the late 60s that made two great composers. Jerry Goldsmith was Patton, and oh my gosh, it's the Peter O'Toole film that made John Williams, where he's the schoolmaster, English schoolmaster.
Oh, what is that movie?
Oh my gosh, hold on. By the way, let me know if I ever start to make noise because I'm on my PC now. I'm not on the laptop. So I'm hoping that we've gotten rid of the problem with the
Robotic.
Mr. Chips. Goodbye, Mr. Chips.
That's it.
And that was the one that put John Williams on the map and got him really started because he'd only been doing TV up to that point. A lot of people don't know he was a student of Henry Mancini, a protege to Henry Mancini. Yep. And in fact, it was Henry Mancini that got him his first professional gig doing soundtracks because they wanted Henry Mancini, and Mancini says, "I'm too busy. Hire him Johnny Williams," because that's what he went by back then. Because he was a jazz pianist.
Yeah.
My favorite joke dealing with that was this guy tells us a joke about his puppy's names. And he says, "Yes, I named that one Liberace because he's the pianist." Yeah. One of those jokes I remember from childhood. Bonjour, Christian Delorme. Good to see you.
Yeah, I would have used my sound effect, but I don't have it on right now. So
let's see.
Don is in the chat.
Don Egger's here. Good morning, Don.
Hey, Don.
Don, you're welcome to join us if you want to talk about Patton. Because a lot of things that are really cool about this film is that, oh, by the way, how long is the film strip?
An hour and 25 minutes, I think.
We should probably go ahead and load it up.
Yep.
There you have it.
But Jerry Goldsmith did the soundtrack for this film.
And he got nominated for an Oscar. It's a shame he didn't get it.
It should have. It should have been nominated for 4 different Oscars. Because even though it's not adapted from the book, it should be listed as either best adaptation or best original screenplay. Either one. I will point out that the only time George S. Patton ever wore all the regalia on his uniform is in a famous photo taken by his wife because she asked him to. He never dressed in his uniform this way, publicly, ever. But this is one of the greatest speeches. And the way it opens is really funny because it has the sound of, you can hear a bunch of the sound of soldiers in a room moving around talking. And then all of a sudden you hear one yell, "Ten Hut!" And you hear everybody snap to. And all of the military posts around the world, when this movie was premiered, the soldiers would actually jump up to attention when they heard that because they thought it was real. They didn't realize it was in the movie. This is one of those funny little anecdotal things about the movie.
Cool.
Military loved this film. I don't know how Patton's family felt about it, but I felt it did a really good job of showing who he was, how rounded he was as an individual. They left out a lot of things. They put a lot of things on, just edited it out. The fact is, he didn't slap one soldier. He slapped two soldiers. Lots of little things. They don't mention that he was an Olympic athlete, George Patton. They lie. They make a mistake, and they said that he's over 6 foot in the movie. No, he was not tall. He was tiny. And high pitch voice. Very shrill, which is, one of the things that historians believe was why he was so blue. He had a vulgar language. And they do allude to it in the film, too, that Patton, that Omar Bradley wouldn't have ever brought him into the European theater because he felt that he was not a team player. It's funny. It's in this speech. Talks about team. And Patton was an individual. He stood out. He wanted to do things his way, and that goes against Bradley because Bradley was a soldier before he was an officer. And so he came up through the ranks. He was the soldier general. And he thought that he was too much of a maverick. And
Patton was a warrior from another time.
And that's it. He is an anachronism. And it's even mentioned by a German in this. It's fictional, but we do know that there were German officers who Hitler admired Patton. He respected and admired it. He was that good of a general.
He was brilliant in what he did. He was a genius in tactics and stuff.
Anima made a good point. If that guy is dead, why did he bother wiping off the scorpions? And then this kid does a shitty job of trying to grab the ring. He's pulling on his finger. I'm like, are you trying to make him fart? What are you doing?
Oh my God.
That's terrible acting, young man.
Yeah, really.
You know that Patton, he invented the technical assault vehicle.
The what?
The technical assault vehicle. The one that's used in Somalia. Because
the technical assault legal?
The technical assault vehicle. The technical.
Oh, tactical.
Technical.
Sorry, your accent was fucking me up there, Mark.
I know. and my nose is...
As lovely as it is, I couldn't figure out what the fuck you were saying.
And I'm constipated and just woke up. So I feel sorry for everyone.
Mounting a heavy weapon on mounting a heavy weapon on a civilian vehicle.
Yeah, he put a 50 cal on jeeps.
Yeah. And now I'm going to point out some huge things we should have already noticed. They are using post-World War II tanks. They're using the M47 and I think it's the M60. Both are Patton tanks. And it's really weird that they did that because I'm certain that there was access even in the Spanish army because the military advisor for this was a Spanish officer and they used the Spanish military. But apparently all they had were Patton tanks. Different version. That's a Patton tank right there. The chassis are all wrong. They didn't even dress these up to look like World War II tanks. And all Patton commanded were Sherman tanks. That's all they had. But anyway, this scene's great. Where he points out he admires this. I don't know if he's a Prince Sheikh or what he is. I forget, but he admires their military marching and uniforms. He was very driven visually. Patton was.
Did you see what Don said in chat, Gary?
What's that?
Hold on. Here. he did. Snap to attention.
Yeah, when you saw it.
Yeah, and
they have 47s in this too. They've got 47. Oh. They may have the M48, but I could swear later on during the battle with Rommel that those are M60s that are supposed to be Tiger tanks, which was at the time the current tank being used by the military during the Vietnam War. Wasn't the speech taken from a speech? It's a mixture of two speeches, and they may have even combined a third. And I got to tell you, everything in this movie is from the book, The Story of Patton. And Francis Ford Coppola, again, proves not only how good of a director he is, what a great screenwriter he is. This is an amazing script. And George C. Scott, how he didn't get the Oscar for this role.
He did.
Oh, he did? I thought you said he got nominated.
No,
that was Goldsmith. He only got nominated.
List of wins.
Patton won for Best Picture, yes, Best Director, Best Original Screenplay, because even though it's based on the information from that book, it is not an adaptation. Best Actor, oh my God, George C. Scott. And the only role before this that he just absolutely blew it out of the park was
look
Dr.
who's there.
Strangelove.
Dr. Roger Corbin.
What?
One of the generals.
Okay. What I was saying was the only role where he blew it out of the park before this movie was when he played the general in Dr. Strangelove. And God, he nailed that movie. So Patton, he's playing a guy a lot smaller than him with a higher pitched voice, and yet he still found a way to embody that character. And I've always said it's sort of like you have two versions of Hunter S. Thompson outside the real one. You had Bill Murray's and you had Johnny Depp's. And Hunter S. Thompson said, Bill Murray is pretty much me in his movie, Where the Buffalo Roam. But Johnny Depp is the version of me that I wanted to be in Leaving Las Vegas, or Fear and Loathing in Las Vegas.
Yeah.
And for Patton, I believe that George C. Scott is the version. Now, there's my late friend, Morgan Paul. I was friends with him for years.
Yes.
He is so good in this role. It breaks your heart at his character. And almost all the main characters in this film are based on real people, including, you will meet later, a sergeant who was, because I remind people that in World War II, it was still a segregated military. This was created by the president during World War I. They had desegregated the U.S. military. All branches had been desegregated before him. What was that? That was Hoover, right?
Yeah.
Hoover. Hoover resegregated the military because he was a flaming racist and a liberal. He was the president that invited D.W. Griffith to premiere his movie about the Ku Klux Klan saving America in Birth of a Nation. Premiered at the White House. Yeah, not a racist at all. But, man, I'm sorry. I've got so much trivia in my head. But you've got this scene. Of course, he's with. This is with 4th Armor, isn't it? Or is this 2nd? I can't remember if he's 2nd Armor right here, right now, because I think that's who he commanded going into.
7th Army.
7th Army's what
is
he
it
commanded.
7th?
Yeah, 7th.
Okay, because that's armor patch he's got on. Wilson resegregated.
Yeah, it was. Yeah, Wilson.
Yeah, that's what I was saying. He segregated in the military after it had been desegregated, and it didn't get cleaned up until after World War II, almost immediately after World War II. Why it wasn't during the war, I don't know. do believe that Franklin Delano Roosevelt had a lot to do with that, and Harry Truman is the reason why it got desegregated again, which it should have been from the get-go.
Yeah.
Mark is here, by the way. Good morning, man.
Hey, Mark.
We've got Alex Moore, Dragon Ruse, D-Bud Martin, Cam's Crash Courses is on time again. You're freaking me out, Cam. Bryant Barth is here. It's good to see everybody. Good morning.
A fun fact: when Patton is getting to the building and there's a woman in a burqa trying to sell him some hens, the subtitles says woman speaking Arabic. Dude, she's speaking Spanish.
Oh, really?
Yes. She said.
Well, they shot it in Spain, so
yes,
that makes sense.
She's saying, oye, compra gallinas, which means, hey, buy some hens.
Buy some hens. This is a good scene. This is where he goes after the cook. And he is ready to kick everybody's ass in this.
There's a definite lack of discipline.
Yeah, and this was the problem with the previous officer, that he wasn't in true command. So he's bringing discipline back to this unit. And it's because of that discipline that he was both beloved and hated. Morgan Paul is so good here as the captain. Like his confrontations with people. What were you doing on the floor when he yells at that one soldier? And he's sleeping. And Patton's like, back to what you were doing. You're the only man who knows what he's doing here.
The poor guy is so sure he's getting his ass kicked for sleeping on the floor, and he gets told to continue because it makes sense.
And these guys look so young here. I like that. This kid and the one over on the right, who's cut off for some reason. But Morgan, by the way, I talked with Morgan's daughters last night. We're going to get them on, and we're going to do a Morgan Paul episode. We're going to talk about his many film and TV roles, and they're going to bring some photos. It'll be nice because they're such sweethearts, his daughters. They befriended Gary and me from Blade Zone, and Anima got to see our conversation last night. They're just so sweet.
With one of them, yeah. I'm looking forward
that's right. You weren't there for the other one.
No. That was after my laptop died on me and ended date night.
Now, of course, wearing your helmet, you can still use your stethoscope.
Oh, that's one of my favorite scenes coming with the picture on the wall in the quarters. Or did we skip
I hope
that?
you put the monkey Jeebus on there.
There wasn't a monkey Jeebus on the picture. But it's small enough you really can't see it. Okay.
Because he walks up to it, gives it his thumbs of approval, then walks around and then smacks it off the wall.
Okay, again, no, not that. I don't think we saw that part.
Yeah, okay, I think we skipped over that because I really like that. He approves of the picture, but not on his wall.
That's Omar Bradley. This is an important scene because this is where Bradley is made aware of Patton's belief that he is reincarnated from many warriors. He is generation after generation reincarnated as a warrior. Nobody famous in the movie, but I do believe he believed he was a specific centurion. And I forget who it is. It's in the book, in this scene. And he's talking about the battle that took place here 2,000 years before.
And that he was there and that freaks his officer out.
Well, he doesn't know how to take it. Omar kind of laughs about it. And he goes, "You think I'm kidding? I was here." But Omar knows him. He knows what a tactical warrior he is. He is absolutely. But this is something that the Germans understood about him is he didn't think like modern warriors. He was an old warrior, an old soul. And that's why he was so admired by the Germans. He was also a
philosopher. He had many sides.
He was a poet, a philosopher. He wrote real poetry. He just had that shrill voice that, and he was blue. Like that whole speech at the beginning, he didn't say grab him by the nose. He said grab him by the nuts.
Yeah, they tamed that down, unfortunately.
Oh, man, big time. They left sons of bitches in there, bastards. But they really PG'd the hell out of that speech for him. He was notoriously blue. Yeah, I love the scenes with these German bombers. And this is where we meet Rommel for the first time. Rommel doesn't know who the hell Patton is. His attaché, his second in command, his XO, is the one who tells him who he is. He's a graduate of VMI, the Virginia Military Institute, and West Point. Graduated 46th in his class at West Point. Unlike Custer, who graduated last.
Yeah. And it shows.
It does. They use, now that is, as I recall, that is German artillery back there. They do have the Kubelwagen. I don't give a shit if people from Germany.
You almost got it
my
this
friends.
time. Almost.
I don't care.
It's
I don't care.
Kubelwagen, guys.
That's what we pronounce it as here in America, Kubelwagen.
Yeah.
I put the extra effort to pronounce the W with the V sound, where most Americans wouldn't even bother. It's Kubelwagen is what they call it here. Also known as the Thing when it was released in the United States as a car.
Or the Hitler wagon.
The what?
The Hitler wagon.
Yeah, we all made fun of it that way. You know, Hitler's car company, you know, the people's car, which is what Volkswagen means, the people's car.
It does, yeah.
Doesn't sound communist at all.
Boss, we have a request.
Get
Mark
him
wants to
on.
join us.
Get him on. Send him a link.
Fuck yeah, Mark. Get in here.
The more the merrier.
I don't
I'm stopping
have
the movie
I
right
don't
now.
have him. Somebody can send the link to him, please.
I'll do it.
I'm on a
Okay.
different computer, so I don't have that set up, Twitter set up on this yet.
Don't worry.
So now that's the English, one of the English generals in the back there, but you will eventually meet General Beetle Smith, I think was his name. He was a very popular general during World War II. Nothing like Patton. The two most popular generals in World War II were Eisenhower, Ike, and Patton. I will tell you this right now, as the supreme commander of the war, Ike, there were some major problems with him. And you see those conflicts even with Patton. Now, Patton gets a little too overly brazen, but he's right a lot of the time.
Yeah.
And at the end of the film, I'm going to point out something that Patton, as brazen and as wrong as you think he sounds, was 100% right. 100% when it dealt with the Russians. And it led to an escalation of, we almost went to nuclear war because they didn't listen to Patton. If they'd listened to Patton, that would have never happened. So, is Mark on his way?
Yeah, I sent the link.
Well, those in command, Eisenhower had huge issues. He knew how good he was. It's the same thing with MacArthur. And a lot of people don't know that MacArthur and Patton had a run-in with each other where they shared a trench. Great little story. And I'm not sure, I think, was that during the war with Pancho? It might have been about the war with Pancho Villa. I'm not sure.
Pancho Villa, yes.
And they had bullets going over their heads together. There's rumors that they didn't like each other. I've never seen any proof of that. Never. I don't know if that's true. Looks like Mark just joined us. There's Mark.
Yep.
Bring him on up here.
Hey, Mark.
Hey, everyone. Thanks for having me. Saw you were doing this. And
oh, you bet, buddy. It's good to have you.
Very good. Yeah. Yeah. Missed you on Toxic Tuesday lately, and glad to be able to hop on here.
It's just Tuesdays are so rough on me right now.
Tough for you, right? Yeah. No, I hear you. But I'm a massive.
I hate it because I got to tell you, the happiest I am is hanging out with you fuckers. I really
well,
do.
Hopefully, sometime soon you can. Yep, we're doing Chuck Norris this month. So
I know I'm so pissed because I'm a big Chuck Norris fan. I mean, when I went to see Good Guys Wear Black, I became a Chuck Norris fan that day.
Nice.
I went to see that movie. I'm like, Chuck Norris is amazing. Hey, Snortopoopas is here.
Hey, Snortopoopas.
Hey,
but
good to see you.
Thank you for having me. I'm a massive fan of this movie, so hopefully I won't talk too much. But and also,
no, if you've got some stuff to throw in, please do. By the way, Dadman Walking is here. I'm going to be joining Dadman Walking on his show on Saturday in July. Looking forward to hanging out with him. Snortopoopas is here. Penny is here. Good morning, Penny. Just another red shirt. Be seeing you, my friend. And I think I've got everybody else. Yep, we're caught up.
Yeah.
So
you should enlarge Mark so everybody can see the Patton statue he has.
Oh shit! Let me see that. Pause the film, Martin, would you?
Oh.
You dumb son of a bitch.
I'm sorry.
No, don't apologize. Don't worry about it. I'm done.
That is cool.
That is a 12-inch 1/6 scale George S. Patton figure.
Yep.
Yeah.
Look at that.
So there's also a Bradley figure.
And Willie.
Yeah, Willie. Yep.
Yeah, that's the first. Okay, first armored. That's the first armored patch. Okay,
yep.
I knew it wasn't seventh. He was first armor. And he's known in some of these scenes to be wearing not his helmet, but his helmet liner, because he did in real life have his armor his helmet liner decorated.
Okay, I'm gonna need some.
As part of his dress uniform.
Have we seen this yet?
What?
This scene on screen, have you?
I don't think we have.
No, I don't think so. Yeah.
Because I'm.
Yeah, we've seen that.
Yeah, we've been there.
Yeah, it was just after this, so we're good. We're good. We get the Rommel scene here, and
okay, I'm gonna let it roll then.
Yes,
and that is actually one of the German bombers. They got that, but the rest of the time they're fighting with what was considered at the time modern tanks in this movie.
Yeah.
Which is
And
really
yet
weird.
they won an Oscar for set decoration.
And I'm going to tell you something.
That's weird.
Mark. I would like to. Oh, there he is. That's my buddy Morgan. God, I miss him so much. What a good actor. What a good actor. He had so many funny stories.
Well, I just growing up, my dad watched this movie with me as a kid, and then I just kept watching and watching. It kind of became like read like every book on Patton that I could get as a kid, and just love it's a war movie, but in some ways it's not a war movie because there's not a ton of battle.
It's more of a biographical film.
Yeah,
with war intertwined with it, because it is. I was thinking about it watching it last night. I'm like going, it's really hard to call this a war film. It really is, even though it is technically. It doesn't feel like a war film because it's more of a story about a man. And by the way, I paused this scene because this is so important, because this is the guy in charge of Allied air support. He's the one who tells George Patton, because Patton's been complaining to him and saying, I'm getting tired of these crowds shooting my ass off. And he says, we have complete air superiority in Africa. And during this meeting, it's really fucking funny. The German planes come in and bomb and shoot the shit out of him. And it leads to that moment when he jumps out there, which I don't know historically where they found that, but there is several stories of him going out there and shooting at planes with his pistol. And so they put it in this scene. Here they're getting hit right after the guy brags about complete superiority.
You will never see a German plane again. All right.
Next moment they hit them. But it's funny as fuck when after the planes go over him and completely not hit anything while shooting all the time, and his guys
they get locked in the room. By the way, they can't get out of the room, so George Patton jumps out the fucking window like just a soldier.
Then he says he wants to give them a medal for not hitting anything.
If I knew who that pilot was, I'd give him a medal for shooting me.
Also, he tells him to shoot him right on the nose. His nose seems to be important.
It's always pointing because he had a big nose.
Yeah.
And George C. Scott actually wore a prosthetic on his nose, even though he has a pretty prominent nose. He wore a bridge piece.
I noticed this last night for the first time because
you can see it.
I had a
4K version. Right?
At last, I have a good version. I said, I see a line there.
Yep. You can see the makeup. Like the scene later in the film where he lays down and they have a close up of him laying down and he's contemplating his life after losing his job. You can really see the difference between his natural skin and the makeup. And here he is with Morgan again. And this scene's interesting. I don't have an answer. I don't know why some of the graves have helmets on them, and some of the others don't. But he makes a point here, that, we need to have guards on these graves at all times to make sure that they're not robbed, because that's the history of this place. Many warriors die here and their graves are robbed. Clothes stolen right off their back.
Yep.
Boss, we have a question here from Brian Barth.
I wonder how John Wayne, Rod Steiger, Burt Lancaster would have played Patton. They were considered. There were a lot of actors considered, and how George C. Scott got it is amazing, because I got to be honest, it's hard to picture anybody else in that role getting it right. Nobody, and I'm going to tell you this right now, I just want to do an entire show about George C. Scott raging on screen. Nobody rages like George C. Scott. They even made a movie called Rage with George C. Scott, where he got to rage through the whole movie. He got exposed to a chemical. His kid dies, and he goes on a rampage to wreak out justice on those who killed his kid.
I kind of want
and
to
then
see
he
this
eventually
now.
dies too. It's a good film, but John Wayne wouldn't have gotten it. Rod Steiger would have over dramatized it. Burt Lancaster maybe would have got it right, but the only actor that absolutely got it right is George C. Scott. I don't think anybody would have got it better than him.
I think Burt Lancaster would have played him a little more subtly than
possibly, but that's the thing. That's not George S. Patton. Patton was a ballsy, loudmouth son of a bitch.
Yep.
He had a blue mouth that made even the hardest sailors turn red. He just, but he does use a word in this film, and I looked it up as a kid, right after hearing him say it. My dad, whenever that happened, I'd ask my dad what a word meant, and he made me go look it up in a dictionary. It was bilious. I love that word. Since I was 8 years old, that word.
I still haven't looked it up.
Bilious is great, man. It has to do with shitty attitude or vomitous.
And to this day, I think some people think that George C. Scott is Patton, because I see, people quoting, quotes on the internet or pictures, and you wonder, because he identifies. And the ironic thing is, like you said, he hated his voice.
He's so identified with, and
voice.
He was. By the way, again, I want to point out, both Carl Malden and George C. Scott were warriors. George C. Scott himself was a Marine, served as a Marine during the Korean War.
Well,
yeah, I've seen.
He
actually joined in 1945. By the way,
I was looking back for this comment because it aligned perfectly with what you were saying.
Yeah, so Patton's family, his grandfather was the first mayor of Los Angeles, was Don Wilson, or Don Benito Wilson, and very prominent family. Patton grew up extremely wealthy in his family, but he couldn't read. He was dyslexic as a kid, so he had tutors that would read him books. So he was steeped in history, military tradition, and when he went to West Point, he had a very difficult time. He flunked some courses and had to repeat a grade. But he was able to, persevere through it. But his whole family, his sister was at one point engaged to a blackjack Pershing in World War I. So that's how he actually got moved up in command in World War I.
Pershing was very, very fond of George S. Patton. He liked him a lot personally. By the way, this is the ex-executive officer I brought up. He's a fictional character. He's kind of like a herald in the story. Who seems to tell the story of Patton. You get to hear a lot of the backstory about Patton from this character.
Yep.
And I like that. He admires him. And in fact, later in the film, he regrets having to destroy the picture of Patton.
Oh, he does. And I have to do my thing here and point out that they did use German-speaking actors for the Germans.
Yeah, but they were Austrian
some of them were Austrian, which stands out to me, of course, because I'm a native speaker.
He's Austrian. He's from Vienna and raised in Innsbruck in Vienna. and the other guy was also from
It's
Vienna.
odd to hear Austrian German when it's supposed to be like Berlin Germans, very Nazi.
Yeah, the other German actor is German, and he says that he speaks German in a very ugly way.
He nails the Nazi speech perfectly.
This is when Captain wakes him up. Here we get to see some Bedouins. Hey, Scribelight's here. Good morning, buddy. I don't know if you heard earlier, if you missed it, that I was complimenting proof again that not only is he a good director, Francis Ford Coppola was an amazing screenwriter. And this screenplay is a prime example because he technically wrote the shooting script for this. And there he is. That is a real character. His, let me see his name. It is Sergeant. Oh my gosh. I have a photo of him here too.
William George Mix.
Yes. Save image. Here, I'm just going to share my screen real quick. Pause the movie. Pause the movie here. Share screen. Here is a great photo of the real guy. Boom. That's him right there. With his Thompson. And there's Patton.
Yep.
And the captain that you see in the film that Morgan plays, there's the real guy. This is before he got, well, I'm not going to say what happened to him because, well, you'll see for yourself.
Spoilers.
Spoilers! So back to the movie.
Well, it's history too. It's like I was watching Apollo 13 and some girls in the theater like, I wonder what happens at the end of this. You know?
We went to the moon. They didn't. And this is a big moment because the night before, George Patton finished reading the book because he finally did conquer his dyslexia. You cannot be in a command position and be dyslexic. There's too much paperwork involved. And he had to conquer his dyslexia. And which is why I made fun of Star Trek when they made Spock dyslexic. I'm like, give it a break.
Yeah.
As a child, yes, that's fine. But
That's not Spock.
On a deck officer. No. You would not be a deck officer and be dyslexic. So, there they are. That's the M60. I'm telling you, that's the M60 tank. That's the Patton that was being used in Vietnam.
Yeah.
Which was still going on when this movie was made. Which I got to tell you, morale in this country was an all-time low in 1969, 1970 after the Tet Offensive. And so this movie getting made blew people's minds. Film, that kind of glorifies war in a way, especially the warrior.
This was Nixon's favorite movie. Actually, he asked for it to be screened multiple times in the White House.
It's a damn good film. It really is. It respects the military, the soldier, and respects history for the most part. This film is a mixture of facts and accuracy. It's a mixture. It's accurate more than it is factual. But there are a lot of facts in this film. And it really did happen. He really said a lot of the things he said in this film, he really said. And one of my favorite moments is right here. He says, Rommel, you glorious son of a bitch, I read your book.
I read your book, yeah.
Read this one.
The one thing actually, Patton actually, like you said, Jerry, he swears a lot more. I mean, the F word, F-bomb. So
he dropped F-bombs like crazy.
So this is toned down actually, and he said the reason for it was he didn't want his troops to like him. They wanted to be scared of him. He probably wasn't that way, personally. And
he also felt that
he called
they'll
it his
remember
war
it
face.
better. They'll remember it better if I do it that way with more color.
Yeah, he called it his war face. His war face. That was his kind of his persona. And so that's the one thing when I have the soundtrack too with some speeches of Patton in it, and it's he's actually swearing. So this is kind of PG-13. Today
put that back up,
he would have been swearing like crazy, and
Thank you.
I think actually it works better by having him not overtly swear as much. I think it's
And
a little bit
like
more
I said, they
subtle.
cleaned up his language in that speech at the beginning, and I
Yeah.
kind of wish they hadn't, because he clearly PGs up his language for the
Yeah.
troops.
It
And
feels
I'm like,
odd.
done that.
It just
Well, the
doesn't feel
movie does
authentic.
it.
Yeah, the
The
movie,
movie does it, not him.
not
but,
what George
you
C.
can
Scott
listen
did.
to that
I mean,
speech
George F.
online.
Patton did. But
Yeah.
I want to read this out loud because this is really good. Brian Barth. When the title role was offered to George C. Scott, he remembered having read Coppola's screenplay earlier. This is true. He stated flatly that he would accept the part only if they used Coppola's script. The other guy's script just didn't have the flamboyance of the character. And it was Coppola who went back, read the book, and grabbed some real moments and put them in the script to where George C. Scott loved it. Scott is the one who resurrected my version, said Coppola. Yep. M48, you could rent the Spanish Army for movies. That's the M48, not the N60. All right. How do you snort a poopas Q bar? Let's see. Wait. Commentary on the DVD has an interesting comment about the Spanish Army. Broke for lunch, and when they were shooting the Ardennes scene, the director said they were starving and took off. And of course, Morgan got killed in that battle, his character. And I love this scene. I actually get weepy when I watch this scene.
There are a couple of scenes that really get to you in this movie.
He kneels.
You see, that's the guy from Star Trek. That's Dr. Roger Corbin.
Yeah. I don't know what it is, but Patton had this love for warriors. And there's a moment later in the film where I got emotional because he kisses the tank commander's head after they fought 11 hours of combat, some of it hand to hand, after their tanks ran out of gas.
Well, he cared deeply for the warriors in his command, and that is why he snaps when they seem weak and coward-like.
Yeah, and and when we get to that scene, I'm going to talk about it because there is an UCM. Oh, there he is. That's the actor, not the real Monty, because those are again Patton tanks driving by. But here's where you hear one of the Germans speaking real German in the German way. This guy on the right, what's his name? It's a goofy name. Yodel.
Yodel, yeah. Yodel.
Yeah, Yodel. His name is Yodel.
Stupid name.
He speaks the harsh, ugly German, while this guy on the left speaks just beautiful, poetic sounding German.
It's Austrian German. It's just it sounds way nicer.
It's because they were late for lunch.
The Austrian sounds nicer.
Oh, Austrian German is beautiful German. Well, that's why that joke annoys Anima that I make. I said she's from Vienna, and I said, Vienna, the Paris of Bavaria.
No, it's not that the joke doesn't annoy me. Bavaria is actually almost a part of Austria.
Well, Bavaria is also
more like
where they
us
speak
than
better
the
German
Germans.
too.
Yeah,
Bavarians
yeah.
speak better German than Germans.
Yeah. Don said that he told you it was an M48 tank, which is what the Patton was.
But
Patton was a big
N60 was
the
also
tank.
a Patton tank.
I thought
Don't
There
you
were
start
3
fighting
tanks
over
called
that.
the Patton tank. It wasn't just one. There were 3 tanks.
The interesting thing was Patton was a proponent very early on in World War I of tanks. So he commanded our tank forces in World War I, and he was debating about going into cavalry. And then he wrote a letter to his father, and his father wrote back and said, "Do what you think you can do the most damage to the enemy." So that we had almost no tank force in the beginning, and he decided to go
Oh
from
my
cavalry.
God! If you
which
see those images of the original tanks that he commanded, oh my God!
Yeah, they're like little teeny tiny cars. Yeah. So but that was very he was integral to the formation of our tank forces, and he designed that tank uniform which they allude to in the movie, which was all gold. It looked kind of ridiculous.
Here you go.
But
this is what I'm talking about right there. I'm telling you, one of them is in that film. I've seen them multiple times. So I think the M60 is also in this film.
It wouldn't surprise me.
Yeah, they used whatever was operational. I
Well,
guess, for the Spanish
by
army,
the
right?
Spanish army, because they're the
Yeah.
ones who ran the armor for the film.
Well, it's a nice tribute to have a Patton tank in the Patton movie, right? I mean,
now
why
this
not?
is where he gets irritated. Oh, I love his irritation with Monty, because there are two men who are both arrogant as hell, and they're completely clashing. But Patton feels, he's aggravated because Ike keeps taking Monty's side, placating the English before one of his own generals. But that's because Ike was being diplomatic. This is where he makes the plan for Messina, and Monty fucks it all up right here by meeting Beetle Smith right there.
Politics in the military.
He plays the game right here, making sure nobody's in the stalls before he makes his statement. He basically is like, you need to take that idea away from Patton. That needs to be me. He needs to be my support and blocking to my left. And Monty was a prick.
And it plays off beautifully when he races him to Messina and wins. It's awesome. Like they march in and the Americans are already there. That was hilarious.
Yeah, they're marching in, playing the bagpipes, and they're like, oh, and then I pointed out, I said, notice those are American soldiers they're getting ready to walk up to. So they turn the corner.
I shaved especially close for this morning, just for you.
Just for you to smack. Give me a smack.
Yeah. And that's all true. This is a true story about what happened. And, Patton was such a maverick, and, he wasn't as...
he was the American Monty, but I think that he was a better tactician than Monty. I don't think Monty was that smart. Patton was. Patton knew what he was talking about.
He was right, yeah.
Well, being a brilliant technician that he was and tactical guy saved him a lot of trouble, because they did bench him after slapping those two soldiers, but they realized they couldn't keep him. Keep him out. Yeah. They needed him, so they put him back in command. I could swear, Snorter Pupus, in that opening scene, I could swear that one tank was an M60, because it had that flat side of the turret.
Look who just joined us.
I can't see.
Don Aker.
Don.
Oh, Don's here.
Hi, Don.
Good morning, all.
Hey, Don.
Drill sergeant in the house.
So speaking about George Patton, my uncle, my mother's brother, was in the 4th Armored with Patton after they hit Europe, and he ended up going to Czechoslovakia. But they both loved, according to what he told me anyway, and this is many years ago, they both loved and hated Patton. His nickname, and you may have already mentioned this, was Old Blood and Guts.
Yeah.
Our blood, his guts.
Our blood, his guts. It's a great line in the film, and it's a great moment in the film, because a lot of the soldiers, it was a mixed relationship, but they also show later guy driving by in a little deuce and a half.
That patch
with a handwritten sign that says, we support Patton.
That patch that he's wearing in the
7 steps to
7 steps to hell, 7th Army.
Yeah, 7th Army. And that's what my dad's patch was right there, because that's what my dad was.
Well, I'll tell you, just as a personal insight from me, when this film came out, you were correct earlier, Gary, when you said that basically morale, especially in the Army, was shit. And this film...
in North Africa, it was awful.
No, I'm talking about during Vietnam.
Oh, Vietnam, yes. It was... This movie gave a boost to those who served. And you were there, so you felt it, right?
Oh, yeah. There were a lot of guys that, looked at this and said, Jesus, at least back then, everybody was in this together. And we felt like we were in it alone. And it's hard to describe that feeling. But
I think they convey that feeling in this film too, because you get a little taste of the politics of the media and of politicians in this film and their treatment of George S. Patton. And that's an echo of what was yet to come.
Well, even in 70, 71, most of the GIs, most of the troops felt the media was our fucking enemy. Okay.
Yes. And
they were the
Sure,
fucking enemy.
They really
They
were.
never told it straight. They never told it true. And I didn't trust any of those sons of bitches. Not one.
Now, Walter Cronkite was one of the worst. He lied about the Tet Offensive on film. If you go back and watch that film that he released, there was no combat going on when he made that film. It was all added at CBS at his request.
Yeah, World War II, they, the reporters self-censored too. You almost could trust the reporters, that they said in some ways, not to show things or not to show, dead
No,
bodies
it was the journalists
for the most part.
For like the New Yorker, or not New Yorker, I'm sorry, the New York Times, Washington Post, even back then, you knew who they were. Time Magazine, before World War II, loved Mussolini.
And Hitler.
And Hitler, yeah. You got the Man of the Year. I don't know if that's over love, but yeah, my roommate in college.
They loved Mussolini. They loved him.
My roommate in college put up a poster of Mussolini, and I had I had a Patton tank and I had my Patton album. And I said, "You're taking that down by the end of the day, or I'm ripping that up." I'm like, "You almost killed my grandfather." And he's like, "What?" And he was Italian. I'm Italian. I'm like, "You don't put a picture of freaking Mussolini up in my dorm room." I'm like, "You got an hour to take that down, or it's getting ripped up." I'm like,
you know what they said about Mussolini, right?
What?
At least Mussolini made the trains run on.
Well, yeah,
that's
yeah,
right, John.
Well, my grandfather had to jump on a train to leave Italy because he was in it was his birthday, and he was Swiss, and he was visiting Italian relatives, and someone said, we have to make a toast al duce first, and my grandfather said, "F al duce, it's my birthday, we're toasting me," and it was a joke. And then some people left the bar, and the family said, "You have to leave right now. They're gonna come arrest you." He's like, "They're gonna kill you for saying that." So they put him on the next train and got him out of there. But yeah, these dictators were what a bunch of SOBs. But I can only imagine. I was born in '68, but I can only imagine the effect of having, the Vietnam War televised every night. When you're getting that and false info, not the complete picture.
Exactly.
How demoralizing
By the way,
that must have been.
Well, the media,
right
for
here,
example, the media. Let me just say this: there was one incident during Vietnam that was horrendous, and I mean, committed by American troops. It was an atrocity, and that was the My Lai massacre. Now, everybody's at one point or another has heard about My Lai.
Yeah.
They know where an American unit went into a Vietnamese village and basically murdered hundreds of civilians. Now, what they never told you was why it happened. And the lieutenant that ended up taking it in the neck, although he really didn't, okay, but the one guy who got blamed for it had been ordered by his commanding officer, a captain, and anymore I forget their fucking names, but they went in there to pacify this village because every time troops went through this area, they were getting maimed and killed by continuous booby traps everywhere. It was obvious. These villagers were VC, okay? Granted, they weren't out in the jungle with an SKS or an AK-47, but they were all VC sympathizers, allowed the VC to operate there, and these guys, these GIs, were getting murdered. Well, they were going to put a stop to it. Now, in any other war, World War II, First World War, Christ, even in fucking Cuba during the Spanish-American War, this would have been considered status quo. It wasn't, it shouldn't be, but it was. Okay, it was what happened. And you never got the backstory about why My Lai happened. All you heard were these American baby killers went in there and killed everybody. Okay, and that's how the media portrayed the entire fucking United States Army, and I'm still pissed about it.
Well said. Yep.
Yep, very much true. Now, this scene is important because this is where the general, I forget his name, is it Prescott?
Lucian Truscott.
Trescott, yeah. Trescott is the head of Third Army. This is the unit my Uncle Jack was in. And he basically is, my men are tired, they're exhausted, and Patton's like, push them. They've got to go. And he says, you have the privilege of replacing me. And Patton says, I will. I'll put somebody in there. You do the job or I'll replace you. And
well, they're worried here that Patton's ego is he's got to beat Monty. So Truscott is worried.
They think it's just about that, but it's not.
Yeah.
He gave his word that he was going to push and push and push. You don't want to get caught, and that's how you get it caught in a quagmire.
That's the saying you see with
use
the
that word, and
donkey
they don't
coming
even know
up,
what
right?
it fucking means. The Battle of the Bulge is such a moment like that, where our 101st Airborne got stuck in a quagmire in the what forest was that, Don? I forget the name of it.
The Ardennes.
The Ardennes. What a mess. And they claim, and I love that, it's a pride thing. You know, Patton says he rescued them, and 101st says, don't recall asking to be rescued.
Yeah. Nuts.
Well,
nuts, that's right. Patton, they have that in this movie.
12 seconds to go.
Oh, we got to go to commercial break. Yeah, save that comment there for after the commercial. We'll be right back after this message, guys.
Hi guys, this is Gary from Pop Culture Minefield here on KGRA, and we're leaving for our first break. I hope we survive.
Did you know 75%
Hey members, the new KGRA DB app is now available on iOS and Android devices. Gain on-demand access to any KGRA DB programming. Download any show directly to your mobile device to listen or watch on the go. Go to the App Store and search KGRA DB.
Oh wow, we survived. Welcome back to the commercial break. Now for some more Pop Culture Minefield.
Oh, are we back?
Yeah.
Well, that ended abruptly.
Or as Bill would put it, oh shit.
Oh shit. If you guys don't know that, before the show, Bill likes to do that, like act like something's wrong before the show starts. He goes, oh
now
shit.
he's doing it just for me now.
Yeah, he does it just to mess with you. He thinks it's funny.
Yeah.
But I was going to point out again, because I brought this up earlier, that basically George Patton was an athlete. A lot of people don't know that he served in the 1912 Olympics. He was in the, is it called the triathlon?
The pentathlon.
Pentathlon, because he sword fought, he did fencing,
yeah.
He ran. He was in there with Jesse Owens. When Owens
Yeah,
first
he should have won a medal. So he used the 38 caliber in the competition. Everyone was using 22s, and they said the technology at the time, he missed the target. It's inconceivable that it was being such a good shot that he would miss a target. So he said that he spoke about. I have a quote that I happen to have up of that. So he said his only comment on the matter was, "The high spirit of sportsmanship and generosity manifested throughout speaks volumes to the character of the officers of the present day." So a lot of military officers are there. There's not a single incident of protest or any unsportsmanlike quibbling or fighting for points, which I might say marred some of the other civilian competitors at the Olympic Games. Each man did his best and took what fortune sent him like a true soldier. In the end, we all felt more like good friends and comrades than rivals in a severe competition. Yet the spirit of friendship in no manner detracted from the zeal with which all strove for success. So he could have protested, but he didn't. But he would have actually won a medal
if he came in fourth and stood his ground.
Maybe, yeah.
So once again, clearly he was not as egotistical as people make him out to be, and you get the misconception of that even with this movie. But another fact that I liked is, because you brought it up earlier, he went to VMI, graduate of VMI, as well as West Point. But he had to repeat West Point because of his problem with dyslexia. And he had dyslexia not just with reading, but with numbers. And so he failed math and any of the written portions. And he had to repeat them. But still managed to graduate, and he conquered his dyslexia while at West Point, because you cannot serve in a command position and have dyslexia. You have to find a way, and there are ways of getting around it. Kirby met Patton and spoke with him. Patton told Kirby he was a disgrace because his uniform was filthy. Patton pointed to a dead Nazi officer whose uniform was clean. Patton chewed Kirby out. Now, this scene, by the way, I love this scene. I don't know about Don. Is Don still here, or did he leave?
Yeah, I'm here.
All right. Because I can't see it because of the comment. This is a great scene because this is when the two mules were blocking the road. And by the way, he's speaking Italian, and I caught it. What that owner of the mules says is what the nuns used to say to me.
Brought back childhood drama.
Testadora. And yep. And because the nun would say to me, she would go, Testadora, escuch, and she would whack me on the head every time she did it.
You get whacked, right?
Yeah, she whacked the shit out of me. People go, were you bullied as a kid? I said, yeah, nuns.
Yeah, by nuns.
But I only went to Catholic school for a short period. I ended up going to public school after that, and then I got exposed to real bullies, teachers.
Thankfully, the nuns in my Catholic school were retired already, so we barely ever saw them.
But this is the scene where he gets really angry, and George C. Scott. Nobody rages like George C. Scott on camera. Nobody. And he gets so angry of that these two fucking mules are holding up this line.
They're just being stubborn. The farmer tries everything, and he just shoots them, destroying this man's
And look, I'd have done it too. I would have done it too. Are you kidding me? We got to move.
That man's job relied on his animals, and now he's got nothing in the middle of war.
He's gonna die on that road if he keeps it up and allows his animals. Fuck that. Fuck those donkeys. And dumps them over the edge of the bridge.
I tried to ride a donkey once. They are stubborn sons of bitches, donkeys are. Riding them is
I got to tell you something. I do not believe that they obeyed the rules in this film, because I swear to God, those two buzzards.
Oh, they shot them for real. That was real.
Those were, at least one of them was alive, because he was moving. And then all of a sudden he's dead.
You mean that wasn't CGI?
Yeah, back then the CGI was not so good.
I mean, they did get the Oscar for special effects.
That was the third infantry patch right there. That was my Uncle Jack's unit. He was there. That's also Audie Murphy's group. And Audie Murphy was almost the movie for today, to Hell and Back. But Anima chose Patton.
Because I'd already seen the opening speech and some of the scenes that has Gary's friend in it. So I was like, yeah, let's go ahead and watch this one, because I was curious.
And there he is. He's wearing the 7th armored patch. That's my dad's unit. And you'll see him switch around in patches throughout the film.
Well, he's in command of different troops.
They move him around.
Yeah. Because after he's been benched and in London, he gets the third, what's it called? For the Battle at the Bulge. So he's been switched around.
All right. Now, this scene is so emotional. It's a powerful moment when he's speaking to this guy who got shot in the chest. And he says, well, if it makes you feel any better, I saw a German in the field. He didn't have a chest. Also, he didn't have a head. And it made the guy laugh. Because he really did love these soldiers.
Yeah, he wasn't a guy that was just, ordering these guys just for his glory, like we talk, blood and guts. But he was a tactician, but he really was sensitive to what's happening to the soldiers. So you're going to talk about what comes up next, I'm sure.
And this scene right here, this is before the slap. This is important.
Yeah,
he gives this guy his Purple Heart and leans in, prays over him, and then whispers in his ear. And I've always wanted to know what he said. And it's such a touching moment.
He's probably thanking him.
Don't know.
For his sacrifice.
Yeah.
He could have also said...
It looks like that dude
could
is
have also
dying.
told him, the guys who did this to you, we murdered them this morning. He could have whispered that to him. You don't know it back.
They are putting up the screen, so it seems like he's dying.
And then he walks over and he sees this guy who's got, they call combat fatigue at that point. And he doesn't slap the soldier. He slaps his helmet. But this isn't the only case. He did it twice here.
Within 8 days.
And Ike and all the politicians back home, this is where you start seeing.
Well, it got leaked to the media later, so they kept it out of the press. So we're just talking about the press. So
this is where you start seeing these leaders that were hand wringers that questioned everything the military did. And Tecumseh Sherman made it clear that the only way to win a war is to do worse than your enemy. Be willing to do worse than your enemy. And Patton understood that. Pershing. All the great generals of this time understood that except for Ike. Ike became a diplomat.
Ike was a politician.
He was a politician, but he was also a diplomat. Hence why I called him a diplomat.
Yeah, Patton said
very diplomatic.
He said he was bitten with a presidential bug.
Yep.
In his memoirs. Yeah. But yeah, the slapping incident. So it was actually
This is important right here. Sorry.
This
is important. Truscott, who was the head of Third Army that he threatened to replace, broke through. So his push on these guys worked, as he said it would. Yeah. So go ahead, Mark. I'm sorry.
Well, I was just going to say that, Ike found out about the slapping incident and told him to apologize, and he did apologize to the soldiers and the doctors. But then it was Drew Pearson revealed it on his radio show. And so then it became a public matter, and that's why Patton didn't get, Bradley got promoted over or got the, command of the First Army in England for Operation Overlord. So, then it became a big, huge thing. And even then in World War II, and I'm sure that, there's a scene, I guess it's alluded to. It's like in Germany, the Germans could probably just shoot their own soldiers, no one would care, they couldn't understand. They're like, what? He's in trouble for slapping a soldier? Are you crazy?
This is that scene that we told you about, guys, where Montgomery's coming in all victorious and you see the flag waving. And fuck. I keep having to pause it. I'm sorry, guys, because I want to get to these scenes and talk about them. So here we go. We've got the scene here where Montgomery shows up in Messina and he's all proud. I got here first. Just as I had been promised to be here first, because for him it was about the glory. I don't think much of Montgomery. I really don't.
He's a real prick in this movie.
So you see him, we got the bagpipes playing, and you see the British flags. Hello, British, hey, welcome. And so everybody's happy. Monty thinks he's the first there. You see him all proud doing his ugly little British salute. I'm sorry.
That's a shitty salute.
I do the salute too, but he's got his pinky sticking out, which annoys me. The salute is this. And they're walking forward, and then all of a sudden they cut to a wider angle, and you see the American helmets already around the corner, and boom, they're marching in, and there's the Americans already waiting for them. And
I shan't kiss you.
I shan't kiss you. And he says, but I shaved real close just to get your smack.
I use that line all the time, actually. My guy friends, yeah.
And Monty laughs for a moment, and then the laugh leaves his face because they do not like each other at all.
Well, Patton said early, he made it clear that he was going to do everything in his power to reach Messina first.
Michael Bates is great. Bates is, he's got the Monty accent down. It's really an annoying accent. Yeah, grandstander. There you go. That's exactly what Monty was. And there's a lot of military officers for Britain I admire. Field Marshal Montgomery was not one of them. I don't think much of him at all. Oh, no, Glenn. I respect a lot of British officers. That's why I just said what I said. Monty is a fucking idiot. Historically. It's like another gentleman from England said earlier. He's all you had.
And if you don't believe that, ask any airborne trooper about Operation Market Garden. That was all Monty.
All Monty. It was a major clusterfuck.
Yep.
The Brits stopped to brew some teeth.
And it's what led to the quagmire in the Ardennes forest.
Yes.
You know, if it hadn't been for the fuck up at the Rue Morgan and the bridge at Remagen, I'm telling you.
Here we see another side of Patton because he was very Catholic.
Deeply Catholic.
What they were saying? Berlin before Christmas?
Yep.
Yep.
Patton was dead serious about this shit. Look at him. He looks so good. That's the Ike jacket, by the way. One of the most handsome military uniforms designed by Eisenhower himself. Now, that's the soldier he slapped, and he's looking all like, give him an apology. Was he right or wrong about cowardice in this situation?
He just couldn't understand.
Right.
He couldn't understand how war could break you mentally.
The conduct in the military under the code of the UCMJ. Okay. Striking a fellow soldier or a subordinate is a court-martialable offense. You can actually be kicked out of the military for striking another soldier.
Big time.
And when he struck the soldier's helmet in the movie, I don't know if that's what happened because there are other witnesses that said he struck him. And he did it with his glove.
I've read somewhere that smacked him in the face with his glove.
Yeah. In the movie, they show the helmet, but the fact is it doesn't matter. That's conduct unbecoming, and you could get in trouble for it. You don't do that. That's why I thought was going to get kicked out of the Army when I knocked the shit out of that guy during PT one morning. He got mouthy with me, and I just knocked him on his ass in front of a drill instructor. And I turned and I saw the drill instructor just looking at me, and I went, fuck. My whole body went slack, and I went, "Oh, I'm done. I'm gonna kick."
You should have gotten way more trouble than you did, Gary.
I thought you were a medic.
Drill instructor didn't like him either, and he liked me.
You wanted some practice because you were a medic, right? I guess you knocked him out just to.
Well, they did call me doc a few times because I was already an EMT in the Army. Ah, there we go, Monkey Jeebus. Yes, I called you a racist. That's funny. He wanted to get a show that was just nothing but black guys, and I'm like, you're a racist.
I have this video for him.
Maybe we can get in through the back door.
And we have a question for Brian.
What?
We have a question from Brian Barth.
Oh, I couldn't understand you. Okay, so question for Brian Barth. What is the difference between World War II and Vietnam War? 20 years? 10 different kind of motivation. We were in the middle of trying to fight. Look, this is what George Patton's warning was, that the Russians, I could stop the Russians. This is going to be a war later if you don't let me act now. And we got that war. It's called the Cold War. And during the Cold War, we actually would take it to the field. That's what happened with Korea. That's what happened with Vietnam. Both of those were our fight against communism. And communism had infiltrated Vietnam.
Well, we got
we were
involved in
originally there as
Vietnam.
advisors for the South Vietnamese. And when Kennedy got killed, Johnson took over, and he was very friendly with the military-industrial complex. He was very compliant. Kennedy wasn't. And that's when we got our Vietnam War. It's why a lot of us believe Kennedy was killed, was so they could get their damn war. And it wasn't a popular war. It started out okay, but the media in the United States was already leaning socialist, and they were against the war from the get-go. And Walter Cronkite, Dan Rather, some of the big names of the 60s, were constantly berating the war. Even though we won the war, and we did, we physically won the war, we forced the North Vietnamese to meet us in Paris talks for a treaty. And they were forced to sign that treaty. The problem is politicians in the United States, unlike World War II, became cowardice and defunded the war, forcing us to abandon Vietnam and not force the North Vietnamese to obey the treaty that we made them sign.
Let's be honest.
I wanted to avoid the politics of it, Don.
Congress.
Congress was the one who did
defunded
it.
the war, which were primarily Democrats. It was the Democrats that got us into Vietnam under Jack Kennedy.
Democrats under Johnson, got us into Vietnam, and it's the Democrats that betrayed the war effort. Absolutely.
I was there. I saw it. I lived through it. And there was one other item that we should mention in passing. That is that at that time, higher education, academia, I'm talking about universities and colleges across the United States, were already being infiltrated by Marxists and socialists within the teaching venue.
Well, that was
the teachers.
That's after the failure of the communist movement in the United States that got stopped by HUAC. They weren't completely stopped. What they did is they went underground and they began to infiltrate into the education system. They said, that's how we're going to have to do this. We're going to have to educate children. We have to get the kids, the youth.
Ergo, today, you see the destruction of the nuclear family.
Yeah. We could do a whole show on this. Now, this is when he's relegated to London, right? Oh, God, he's so pissed about this hotel room. Mirrors on the ceiling.
What are those for?
Yeah, when I saw that, I was like, really?
He had a mouth on him and basically called this a cat house. There's Beetle again.
Well, they did a great job in history. Of using Patton as a decoy, which you'll get into in the movie in a few minutes. But the Germans all thought he was going to be leading the invasion, and they did a fantastic job with fake troops and radio transmissions of creating a fictional army around Patton to deceive the Germans for during D-Day. So,
but he must have hated being used like that instead of being put into action.
Now that's Lieutenant General Beetle Smith, and he was the one as I recall, wasn't he the one in command of the D-Day invasion itself, or working with the British on it? I can't remember, Don.
No. No. Actually, Eisenhower, of course, was overall command. Bradley had a big part in that. And as a matter of fact, speaking of Bradley, later, when the Battle of the Bulge began, Bradley didn't even think it was real, He sat around for several days. And that was one of the reasons the 101st, I'm getting sidetracked, but that's one of the reasons the 101st got stuck in Bastogne, okay? They were trying to tell everybody, hey, these guys are coming in a big way. Nobody believed it. Patton, however, did believe it.
We had this for you, Don.
Oh, Jesus.
Yeah, I love
Thank you, Dragon Roost.
I got to tell you, I love the humor of our chats. They're always good. I love the. It's just funny as fuck. But the patch that's on General Beetle Smith's shoulder, isn't that the early Special Forces patch with the sword?
No.
What patch was that? Let me see if I back it up here. Or can you do it, Martin? Go back to him sitting on that sofa in the hotel room.
Oh, I'll try not.
All right, I'll do it.
No, at that time
Right
there
there.
were basically
No,
that's not special. At that time, there were basically two special operations groups. There was the Rangers,
right?
Okay, and then there was the Joint Canadian American First Special Service Force.
What?
But they took on the tactical operations of the special forces later, of course, when special forces were refined in the 50s. That's when you began getting into other areas, going in, training civilians to be guerrillas, intelligence, communications, all that kind of stuff. These guys were much more hands-on.
Oh, that was the Supreme Headquarters patch. That's what he's wearing.
Well, how would the frogmen in World War II be classified in the
they were UDT.
Navy, right?
UDT,
okay.
Yes.
Yeah, UDT existed. That's why Jesse Ventura is considered a SEAL, because he graduated UDT. He didn't graduate as a SEAL, but anybody who graduates UDT is a SEAL. That's how they identify it.
No, Rangers and First Special Service were basically assault troops, very elite assault troops.
Good, a lot of them referred to as commandos, specialized commandos. I think, what's that movie with Mel Gibson, Operation Zebra or something like that, where he played part of the Australian
Z-Force.
Z-Force. Great film. I love that film. Brian Brown,
which was actually a real Australian. I mean, they were some bad mofos.
Yeah, they were. By the way, I love that shot of George Patton looking up in that fucking mirror. And it's sort of like he's really considering how his mouth keeps getting him into trouble. And he promises he's going to stop it. And then he does it again.
He knows.
And right here, he's already in trouble. And his attaché tells him, don't forget the Russians. And he forgets to mention the Russians. And this is where you learn that William, his dog, is renamed to Willie because it's a coward.
He's scared of that
dog
tiny
barks at it, and he's like, watch this dog. He's going to kick that dog's head. Oh, shit. That dog just cowered behind him.
And the lady apologizes for her dog scaring his dog, and he's just so ashamed of his dog's behavior. He's degrading him. He's Willie now.
Oh, man. That dog, he brought me so much memories of my Spock.
Yeah, he looks like him, kind of.
If you're talking about U.S. Navy, it was most likely UDT, because they were
and the Marines had a special recon force that they would send into islands ahead of time. I knew a guy who actually was our barber back when I was a kid that had been a part of that. So the U.S. Marines did it also.
I'm trying to remember what they were called. Because the Marine Corps, they had their own amphibious recon team, and I'm trying to remember their name. Shit. I can't find it. Oh, dang it. But I know what you're talking about, Don. I know what you're talking about. George gives this great speech. He's very funny. The women like him. but the media, and he was promised no media was going to be there. There was media there.
Of course.
And
They're
they
everywhere.
intentionally bring up the Russians because already you see the leftists in the media are jumping all over this shit. People don't realize how infiltrated into the United States the Communist Party was.
Hey, it was all about Uncle Joe. Stalin, as a matter of fact, Stalin was a bigger murderer and killer than Adolf Hitler ever dreamed of.
He murdered more Jews than anyone.
He decimated the Ukraine. He caused the entire Ukraine to have a famine.
Yeah. He was an evil son of a bitch.
Million plus dead.
Hitler learned how to do the trains. That was from Stalin.
Hitler learned everything that he knew. Hitler learned first from Mussolini and then from
Mussolini
Stalin.
was his buddy. People think that Mussolini was a stooge. No, Adolf Hitler admired and adored him.
He was just a copycat.
Based a lot of things that they did off of Mussolini, but he also learned off of Uncle Joe. In a real speech, Patton did mention the Russians, according to some witnesses, but was misquoted by the press. Imagine that.
It's what they do.
That.
Well, the interesting thing, too, is when the Soviet Union collapsed and the KGB files were released, they revealed all the infiltration that had occurred, because, McCarthy always gets vilified. But it turns out, there were a lot of people that were, in Hollywood and actually were spies. And it wasn't just
communists.
A bunch of BS. Yeah, when you communists, and when you read about it, you see movies about it. It was such a persecution, but there's a reason. There was a reason for it, and it turned out to be true. It's always glossed over, which drives me crazy.
There's a term
exactly.
For it.
This is where Patton gets in trouble again. By the way, from Eisenhower for leaving out. This is the part I was talking about. Go ahead, Don.
Yeah, I said there's a term for it. It's called revisionist history.
Yes.
Yep.
Patton kept running into this wall, and this wall was what was yet to come with the media controlling how we fight wars. The media controls how we fight wars. Now, they've got some footage here of D-Day, and what's interesting here is some of this is the only known footage they use in this film of D-Day. And my father got to see the archives when he served. And I don't know if I ever told you this, Don. My dad was the one who told me that there's a lot more footage that's never been seen by the public because they don't want the public to ever see it. And the excuse that the footage was lost in salt water is a piss poor excuse, because salt water is actually a great way to store film before it's processed. So it's bullshit. There's a lot more footage of D-Day that you'll never see because it looks too much like Saving Private Ryan. And they don't want to ever have that shown to the public. So this is where he finds out about the full incident of D-Day, what happened. And he begins planning again. And boy, I wish I was there. You see this constantly. Every time he gets moved out, he's like, I see what they need to do next. And
he's
he
a
really
tactician.
He really is. He's a strategist.
Because he studied all these past battles from like 2,000 years ago. He studied thousands of years of battle history.
Well, he says there was a reason why they did this, and we need to do the exact same thing. And each time he did it, when they let him do it, he was successful for a reason. But
even though he was dyslexic, like as I said, he was steeped in history and knew all these military battles, and was able to conquer his dyslexia. I can't say it, and read, and knew all knew the history inside and out of tactical warfare. Which is why, at one point he says, if they'd only listened to me in Italy, we would have, ended this war a lot sooner, of course, and later in Germany too. So, And that's why in the Battle of the Bulge, which we're going to be getting to, he had already actually ordered his troops. He saw what was happening. So, during that meeting, it's like, my troops are ready, because he had told his officers to prepare for that to try to save the 82nd Airborne. So really,
101st. Yeah.
101st. Thank you. Yep.
Yep. This is a scene that Anima was like, how do they keep meeting? And I said,
Europe is so big, and they just keep running into each other.
Well, that's because this is the Supreme Command Center where Bradley is. That's why they just happen to be having to be briefed at the same time. And I like it because you get to see George C. Scott give him the shit eye. Here he's squinting at him like, you lowly piece of shit. Patton doesn't respect him. And Monty seems to always be trying to one up him, while Patton just says, I don't give a shit what you do.
Oh, by the way, Mark, I'm really happy that I'm finally on a panel with you, because now you get to hear that I don't sound as stupid as Gary likes to make me sound and quotes me. Now
I will tell you,
really sound.
Red Shirt, that anybody was better than Haig, Alexander Haig. Monty was better than Schwarzkopf, and he was better than Powell, in my opinion. I don't like either of those generals, and I didn't like Alexander Haig either. Anybody who, I'm not going to say it because I'm going to be taking a dig at a friend of mine, but it bugs me when people who are in command positions say nuclear. And Alexander Haig constantly said nuclear, and I was a teenager going, "What is wrong with him? That's not the word. That's not even a word. There's no such thing as nuclear. What is nuclear?"
It hurts my brain to hear that.
And you, Red Shirt, that's great that you talk about that, because they did not. They're like, we did not need to be rescued. Thank you very much. But he really did give them a boost by getting those Germans off their back.
They were completely
They were completely surrounded.
They're paratroopers.
I'm showing you Last of the Summer Wine. Yeah, he's a good actor, the guy that plays him. Let's see. I feel the American soldiers who were in Vietnam, who were shit on by everyone. Yeah, they didn't get the thank yous of the parades when they got home. And it's insulting the way American veterans were treated during the Vietnam War. And I saw it myself with my brother when we picked him up at the airport. I feel the American soldiers. Yeah, okay, let's move on. Patton knew that Montgomery's dawdling was allowing. Yeah, and you see the ugliness of that. If you watch the movie A Bridge Too Far, which we will do on the show, it's a long film, but it's worthwhile. They show the frustration between the airborne units and Montgomery's, because they would stop for tea. And we have people dying that need us, and you're stopping for tea. And it frustrated the shit out of the Polish forces and the American forces that teamed up.
And there was one other thing with Montgomery.
What's that?
Okay. Later, as Patton got into Europe, supplies that Patton could have used for his tanks, and they were just kicking ass, were diverted to Montgomery for the Market Garden fiasco. And Patton was livid over that.
That's interesting. By the way, while we bring up Vietnam, I want to point out that Kilgore in Apocalypse Now is based on George S. Patton's son. And you can go look that up. That's another little bit of trivia. He is based off of George S. Patton's son, who is nowhere near as good a commander as his dad. So it was George S. Patton Jr., because George S. Patton was a junior too in this story.
Oh, we have a clarification here from Snurta Pupus.
Good job.
Way to go, Snort.
Of course, Snort. I love the Willie Jeeps used in this film. I love those Jeeps. Classic Jeep. I also like they use the deuce and a halves and the half tracks. The half tracks, there's a joke told in the film where his new XO tells him, he says, we heard some complaints about the half tracks that when they were complaining about the German rounds being able to get through the armor. He says, yeah, but it can only get through one armor plate and then it just sort of bounces around inside.
It rattles a bit inside, yeah.
Yeah.
This is a true moment. This really happened. And it's so funny to see this on film. It's one of the happy moments in the film.
One of the funniest scenes where he goes.
He gets out and starts directing traffic as these different units are fighting over control of this little dirt road. And
he gets complimented on being a good traffic cop.
Yeah. Oh, Bradley says, you make a good beat cop.
My grandfather drove half tracks in World War II. Drove a half track.
They're good vehicles. It was one of my favorite model kits to build was half tracks. They just were cool looking, especially ones that had the anti-aircraft guns mounted in the back. They're fucking cool.
Yeah, it's very cool looking. Yeah, they're obsolete now, I guess, right? We don't have anything like that now, right? I guess it's no more half tracks, right?
No. We have mobile vehicles, and they're all designed specifically for certain things. One of them is to be able to repel IEDs and RPGs.
Brian, we already did the Deer Hunter.
Yes.
We won't do that again.
No, definitely not.
Apocalypse Now I would like to do because it is a great film.
Yes, it is.
I
think it's in our folder, isn't it?
Because it's based on a real guy who was not crazy. They did not murder him, assassinate him. He was one of the most effective warriors in the Vietnam War, and he would go into Cambodia and kill people. He was the enemy of the Khmer Rouge.
Didn't you put that movie in our folder, Gary?
What?
I think I saw that movie in our folder.
It is. It's in there. I have the Redux version, which includes a lot of the. It's got the plantation scene. It's extended. It's got more scenes in it. Because I do like the French when it's so surreal and dreamlike when they go to that French plantation there in the middle of Vietnam.
That's because they're all smoking opium.
Opium. Being a non-military guy, I love the way all veterans think their units is the best and the other guy is shit. My nephew is currently in the Royal Marines. Tell him he's shit. I dare you. I wouldn't ever do that because I love the Royal Marines. I don't think it's. Oh, that was another thing used. They used guys that were amputees in this movie to show some of the battle damage. They showed it earlier in the first scene with the guy with his arm blown off. Anima pointed out that tank, if it's been hours, why is that tank still burning? I'm like, it would be smoking. It would not be burning.
Yeah.
But this is the scene where he kisses that commander on his head. He's like, he says, we fought for hours and eventually it became hand to hand. We ran out of bullets.
I teared up when you see the two dead soldiers and one soldier has his hand on the back of the other guy.
Yep. And the bayonet.
Moments like this are just, yeah.
But he takes his helmet off and kisses this guy on the head. It's an amazing moment.
This is definitely a movie that I can watch again and will watch again.
Well, it's just not really a war film. It has moments in it. It's mostly a story about this guy and
it's a character study.
Yeah,
and he's a fascinating character.
He keeps remembering, I was nearly sent home in disgrace, and here I am. I'm getting to finish this. And all I need is a few gallons of gasoline to finish this war.
And at the same time, he's scared. He's scared to finish the war because then he has no purpose. He needs a war.
Bradley, we would have never had a Patton if it had been left to Bradley. And that means we may not have won the war. Patton was a decisive person to winning that war. My problem with Bradley is he's a hand wringer. And I pointed that out to you when we're watching that scene. I said, you see this? He's in a room full of hand wringers. These are not good commanders. He's the only person that's a commander in that room, Patton. And this is where he admits to something. He says, God, forgive me, but I love this.
Love it so.
And it's
he's a bit insane.
Well, it takes a bit of insanity to be a good warrior.
Yeah, absolutely.
He is what one would refer to today as the war junkies. You got these guys that just love war, and they like the way it makes them feel. It's their drug of choice.
He says it in that scene that he needs it for his life to make sense.
Well, it's not our upper echelon of American military officers today.
There's
These
a real
guys
Sherman. No, I agree with you, Don. Absolutely. But this is the only shot of an actual Sherman tank in the whole movie.
Yep.
Right here. It's the only one. That's what he actually commanded. They don't look anything like the M60 or M48 or 47.
Yeah, but Patton grew up, as we said, to be a warrior. That was his whole. He knew he wanted to be in the army, go to West Point, and that was his whole goal of his life. So when this
and it was in his
ended,
family's blood. They were rich, but they also were, they were warriors.
Do you know his family were Confederates during the Civil War?
I didn't know that. No shit. But they're from California.
They were Confederates.
Yeah, look, it was on his mom's side, if I remember correctly. Yeah.
Welcome to History with Don.
Well, he knows a lot about it.
And I love it.
Okay, this is the moment where he, I'm doing air quotes, rescues the 101st Airborne.
And the great prayer, of course. You want me to write a prayer?
Yeah, write a prayer
to kill our enemy. It's like, yes, yes, I do. You're in good with the Lord. Yeah.
By the way, answer that question. It's because the socialists had populated most of the media by the 60s. That's why.
And the other great line is, there's talking about, are you really religious? He's like, yes, I read the Bible every goddamn day.
Yeah, and the guy's like, well, how do you have time for that? But yeah, he does.
He was intentionally ironic, and I love that about him. He was that intelligent. He did that on purpose, and I love it. Bradley comes off good in the movie because Bradley lived long enough to rewrite the war at everyone else's expense. Bradley was a political general and backstabbed everyone from Ike and down. He was beloved by a lot of soldiers, but the fact is he was a hand wringer, and I don't like him for that. Patton
he was an advisor on this movie too.
Yeah, imagine that. So Carl Malden's going to play him up good. Bradley, okay, so see, Patton straddled the line between genius and insanity. The brilliant military mind believed in reincarnation, and I love that. I
wouldn't call that insanity.
That's not crazy, because I think there is a chance that exists. I just recently saw about Keitel. Even the Germany army staff mocked him and doesn't respect him. Just saw him as a yes man. Yeah. Snortopus Patton said Monty was a tired old fart. Yeah, it's true. That's true. He really did. Keitel wasn't in the movies. He was such a toady. The Germans called him, I don't know what that means. Lekeitel. Lakai means lackey. Okay. That's interesting. Gary, question for you. Do you still have your medic helmet? Nothing from my military career survived my divorce, because I was married to a female I served with, and she put everything into a storage and then let the storage go. And I found out later that anything that was in that storage was auctioned off. I never got it. So my uniforms, everything. Also, almost all my photos, only a handful of photos survived from my service. My Papa Joe Sr. was with Patton at the Battle of the Bulge. Isn't that the battle that he famously had the chaplain? Yes, that is it. Yep, boom. So I've gotten through all of the starred chats now. Yay. And that's a good-looking uniform he's wearing there. I like that one. He designed a uniform, and he talks about it in the film, the gold helmet for tankers.
Yeah.
Army rejected it. God
Well,
damn,
that's
that
that's
was
the
a good
action
looking
figure.
uniform.
The action figure I have, that's the uniform he's wearing in that in the action figure. Yeah.
And by the way, Scott did reprise the role as General Patton in the film, made-for-TV film, Patton
The Last
in
Days
his
of
last
Patton.
days. And I don't think it's a very good film. I don't think it really shows.
Holy shit!
What?
I got a whole crowd of men walking down my lane here.
Uh-oh, get the M1 out.
Get off my lawn.
Just send Bailey. Just send Bailey. She'll take care of it.
Oh, she's out back right now. Okay, well, whatever.
No, I'm going to tell you right now, Glenn Fleming, and if you watch me on a regular basis, you know I absolutely speak highly of the British military and the Australian, New Zealand military in particular. Very, very, and the Canadians. I'm very fond of our closest allies. And of course, Britain is our first cousin when it comes down to it. George Washington said it, and it's true. They are our first cousin. And I adore all the special forces, SAS. In fact, I've written about the SAS, and I have a character called Pilgrim, who is named so based off of the poem on the clock tower at SAS training field. And not too many people know about that tower and that poem. So I know my stuff when it comes to British military. Love the British military. We would have a number of advantages over the Russians, but there was no will at the top to continue the war. That's the problem, is initiative gets lost when the media starts doing the shit that it does. And when public support falls, your war's over. And that's what pissed me off with George W. Bush, when he, instead of taking on a war footing with everybody after 9/11, he goes, go on about your lives, shop. He was more focused on the economy. Don't get me wrong, the economy is important, but war footing is important too. We're reaching the end of it for Patton here, because Patton's done everything that he needed to do. Oh, the FBI is raiding Don's.
Oh, they're watching him.
They're always watching Don. I always feel like
that's funny, but it's true.
Me. That's your theme song, Don. That song from the 80s that had Michael Jackson. I always feel
and
like
here's the prayer.
Somebody's watching me. Because they are.
You mentioned, The Last Days of Patton it's not a great movie, but it was just kind of nice to see George C. Scott there. But but a really good book to read is Bill O'Reilly's Killing Patton. And
it is a good book. That is a very good book.
Read. And it delves into a lot of the history of Patton, and it's not just about the end of his life, but it covers his career more extensively than I thought. And of course, it gets into a lot of the theories about, was he taken out, and the suspicious.
Well, I'm of that group that believes that. I believe he was assassinated because he was a big threat to the relationship between the United States and what is the Soviet, or was the Soviet Union.
Today we would refer to him as inconvenient.
Yeah, it's like
problematic.
George saw the threat that they posed. And he said, we shouldn't be sharing a goddamn thing with them. And I agree with his assessment.
Yeah, I mean, the Russians were allied with the Nazis at the start of World War II. So
we had a huge mistake. The mistake led to the Bayer-Meinhof gang with what we did in Germany. And it's what led to some of the problems with the insurgency in Iraq. Because once you disperse the regional military... Oh, this is the scene where he burns the photo of Patton.
Picture, yeah.
Very reluctantly.
Yeah, because he admires him. He's talking about him almost poetically.
He doesn't see him as the enemy. He sees him as the brilliant military mastermind that he is. That's what he admires.
Snortapoopa says, "Don't worry, Don. The FBI is too busy hiding someone's laptop and investigating."
You are on fire today, Snort.
He always is. Snortapoopa is on top of his game all the time. I've never seen him off.
I wish I could get a job paying me millions of dollars for something I don't have any expertise in. I would pay my taxes, though, if anyone's listening.
You can bet somebody's listening.
That's cool, Tim. Sure. That's really cool. Your dad flew a P-51, man. That was a badass plane. Man. It was actually the fastest plane we had before jets.
My old man flew an M1 Grand.
Now, Patton here is so fucking annoyed. He doesn't want to be with the Russians.
Yeah.
And I like that point where he says, "I won't talk, drink with any, Cossack or Russian son of a bitch." And then the guy calls him a son of a bitch back. And then he says, "No, I could drink to that. Two sons of bitches drinking." It's a great moment. I love it.
Yeah, it's a great scene.
Because the Russian interpreter's like, "I cannot tell him that. You tell him that exactly the way I said it. Word for word." I love that. He tells him, he's like, and then his face goes, what do you get? Look at that face.
You sukin sin.
Yeah, he says sukin sin, son of a bitch. Oh my God, I love that moment. But he told Bradley, he says, don't get rid of the German army. Let me get those guys, rearm them and train them and get them working with us. They're not Nazis. Not every soldier is a Nazi, and that's a mistake they made. Like I said, it led to the Bayer-Meinhof gang situation. And which was yes, there was an insurgency in Germany after World War II.
Well, you see, the Brits would have done it. The Israelis certainly would do it. I always maintained the American Special Operations Force should have elite hand-picked assassins. When we have a son of a bitch like, hey, Bin Laden, you put these guys on it, you track them down, you kill them with no fanfare, and then you come home. Problem solved. We did it in Vietnam to an extent. Provisional units. Have you ever heard of it?
Yeah. By the way, historically, again here, this is a scene where he's dealing with the military press. Okay. You'll see C's and P's on their sleeves. The C means correspondent. P means photographer. And he's had his fill of them. But he makes some statements here that, it makes it clear what he really feels about things. He says, "I did not say that, but I wish I had." And I do believe, and I think, Don, you're of that ilk too, that believe he was assassinated because of his beliefs.
I do. I do think he was marked for termination.
Because it is so weird that they weren't even struck that hard. Nobody else was seriously injured. His neck was broken.
Yeah, it was a freak, 1 in a million accident, I guess, or
breaks his fucking
nefarious.
Neck.
Yeah,
in the back seat,
hit his head. Yeah, the official reason was he hit his head. He was on the edge of his seat, and
now you may or may not be aware. You may or may not be aware that a device was found in the car with Patton.
No, I heard about that. That's right.
Yep. Well, I had a good. Go ahead, Don. Yep.
No, I was just going to say there was a theory that someone had fired this device. It was not a bullet, kind of almost like a hockey puck that struck him in the neck that broke his neck. Now, I don't know if that's true or not, but there was something strange
in my opinion. And the likelihood of him dying the way he died is highly unlikely. It's just really bizarre. The other parts that's weird is the truck and the driver were not supposed to be there. Why was he there? No explanation of that. 2, why was Patton left in real life, not in the movie, at the end of the sequel? to this film, he was left completely isolated. He was not allowed to have visitors. Why? It's really weird, his death.
Yeah, a good buddy whose father was a commander in the Navy, and for years he said that Patton was taken out, and he would tell us all about it. And fortunately, he passed away before I could, that O'Reilly book came out. But there's a lot of really interesting stuff in that Killing Patton book by Bill O'Reilly. Definitely worth reading.
This is Patton's farewell to his the men in his command. It's emotional. You can tell he's broken by it.
Guys, we have 2 minutes.
And he is now going to leave, and he's going to meet up with Bradley. And this is the scene where he's almost killed by a wagon. Surviving all that and almost killed by a wagon. The irony. And it leads to one of the best lines, which is his narration at the end, where he talks about the Roman generals. They would return. They would often have the slaves leading them by the in their what do they call them, chariots, and they would have sometimes the families of the captured as well as their own children in the parade, and that last line, where they would have a slave standing behind them holding a wreath and whispering in their ear. It'll be right here. I'll save it. For
all glory is fleeting.
All glory is fleeting.
Yeah, brilliant line. Yeah, and Pat, of course, as you mentioned, believed in reincarnation too. So living through history again and again, and of course, if it's a cliche, but it's true. If you don't pay attention to history, you're doomed to repeat it. So, just a great portrait of this man, and God, what a well done movie. And Patton happened to be born on November 11th, 1885, which is now Veterans Day. So November 1885. Yep. So
we're at the end of the show, Mark. I got to interrupt you. I'm sorry. We got to end the show. I want to thank Jim Latari, Tim, Christian DeLorme, Bryant Barth, Cam's Crash Courses, D. Bud Martin, Alex Moore, Dragon Ruse, and of course Mark is here. Just Another Red Shirt, Penny, Dadman Walking, Snortopus Cuber, Joe's Atmosphere, Scribe Light, Real Wade Nation, Glenn Fleming, Monkey Jeebus, and everybody in KGRA listening to the show. I hope you enjoyed the show. There's a lot of information, a lot of discussion. If you're listening to the show, you don't get to see the cool shit that Mark's showing right now of his collection. But with that, everybody, thank you for being here. I think we're going to do To Hell and Back next week. So
yes,
those sons of bitches. Ma, I'm doing a show.